Hello, dear listeners, and welcome to The Warehouse. I am your host, Spaz Dragon. On today's episode, we are highlighting independent industrial artist Markovian Parallax Denigrate. Opening this episode up with What Have You Been Doing? Markovian Parallax Denigrate uses music to communicate, because sometimes what you're trying to say is more than any words can portray. I'm a poet, y'all.
When I started MPD, I was like really stressed, and I was sort of like faced with this reality of like my plans weren't going how I thought they would when I graduated high school, and I had some stuff happen as a young adult having just graduated high school, and I had to like grow up very fast, and so there was sort of this like longing for the future I thought I was going to have versus what the future ended up looking like. And so I got really obsessed with like this idea and sort of looking back at like the things that I had grown up around, especially like watching all these like 80s sci-fi movies and stuff, and like Star Trek and Star Wars, and like seeing even like dystopian stuff like Blade Runner. There was still this like fantasy to it, this like energetic, interesting world, this sort of aesthetic, and the neon lights of like the big city and the flying cars, and Star Trek being like this hopeful view of the future, and so seeing like what the future was slowly starting to look like versus like all these like hopeful ideas of the future, even when they like weren't hopeful, they were still like fantastical. That, I think, theming of like looking at our world today as we sort of are in that like super technical future. We're not like quite there yet, but technology has advanced to this like crazy degree now, that you sort of do see a lot of parallels with like what the past thought the future would look like, but it's like implemented very differently. We have like AI making art and stuff, which is like crazy. You look back and think about like people talking about like, oh, robots will take all the jobs nobody wants, and now they're making art, which is interesting. And I think that like dichotomy between like what we thought the world would look like versus like what it looks like now is really interesting. It's stressful, of course, and so that sort of goes back to like me putting that energy into my art, but it is fascinating in a way. I think that I have a really hard time like expressing a lot of like what's in my head vocally. It's very hard for me to sort of like get across the nuance of like what I'm thinking. I just don't articulate very well, and so I think people like sort of misunderstand me a lot of the time. I find that frustrating, but music is sort of like you kind of have to like hear me like if you're listening, and so I think it's like very expressive for me to just kind of put all this like thought and like anxiety and stress and just like all this negative stuff that I don't want to deal with and like throw it into music and like put it out into the world as like a constructive thing instead of like letting it boil and not dealing with it. So I think I feel much more I don't know, just like expressing that way is much more natural. I think just like trying to have a conversation with somebody, there's so much more that you can express with. It's not just the words that you're using, it's the sounds that you're choosing and the volume and energy of everything. It's very expressive. I think that feeling just keeps me driving forward. There's always a new like idea or like a new feeling that I have that I want to like put into a piece of work, and so I'm just like constantly, every time I like finish something, I'm just making something else.
That was Markovian Parallax Denigrate, talking about how music can express things that words simply cannot capture. And we're going to wrap up this episode with one more song from Markovian Parallax Denigrate, guys. This is Crushed. Thanks for joining me on this episode of The Warehouse featuring Markovian Parallax Denigrate, who provided all of the music in today's episode. If you'd enjoyed it, check him out on all the streaming services, YouTube, and Bandcamp. And if you want to get more from independent artists, join us right here every Saturday at 6:15 p.m. on WDRB Media for double the information and inspiration. See you next time.